Liliane Bettencourt.
Liliane Henriette Charlotte Schueller, married name Bettencourt, is a French heiress, socialite, businesswoman and philanthropist. She is one of the principal shareholders of L'Oréal, and as of December 2013, she was listed as the second wealthiest woman in the world with an estimated net worth of $33.2 billion.
Biography.
Bettencourt was born in Paris, France, the only child of Louise Madeleine Beard, née Danseur, and Eugene Schueller, the founder of L'Oréal, one of the world's largest cosmetics and beauty companies. Her mother died in 1927 when Liliane was 5 years old, and she formed a close bond with her father, who later married Liliane's British governess. At the age of 15 she joined her father's company as an apprentice, mixing cosmetics and labeling bottles of shampoo. In 1950 she married French politician André Bettencourt, who served as a cabinet minister in French governments of the 1960s and 1970s and rose to become deputy chairman of L'Oréal. Bettencourt had been a member of Le Cagole, a violent French fascist group that Liliane's father had funded and supported in the 1930s and that collaborated with the Nazis during World War II. After the war, her husband, like other members of Le Cagole, was given refuge at L'Oréal despite his politically inconvenient past. Eventually the Bettencourts settled in an Art Moderne mansion built in 1951 on Rue de la Bordure in Neuilly-sur-Seine, France. They had one daughter, Françoise, who was born on July 10, 1953. In 1957 Bettencourt inherited the L'Oréal fortune when her father died, becoming the principal shareholder of L'Oréal. In 1963 the company went public, although Bettencourt continued to own a majority stake. In 1974, in fear that the company would get nationalized after the French elections, she exchanged almost half of her stake for a 3% stake in Nestlé S.A. As of December 31, 2012 Bettencourt owned 185,661,879, 30.5% of the outstanding shares of L'Oréal, of which 76,441,389, 12.56% shares are effectively held in trust for her daughter. The remainder is owned as follows: 178,381,021, 29.78% shares owned by Nestlé, 229,933,941, 37.76% shares are publicly held, and the remainder are held as treasury stock or in the company savings plan. The Bettencourt family and Nestlé act in concert pursuant to a shareholders' agreement. Bettencourt ended her board director tenure on February 13, 2012, and her grandson, Jean-Victor, was appointed as board director. Bettencourt's daughter and her daughter's husband, Jean-Pierre Meyers, are also members of the board of directors.
Philanthropy.
In 1987 Bettencourt, together with her husband and daughter, founded the Bettencourt-Schueller Foundation, La Fondation Bettencourt-Schueller, to support and develop medical, cultural and humanitarian projects. The foundation is based in Neuilly-sur-Seine, France. The foundation, which benefits from assets of €150 million and an annual budget of approximately €15 million, devotes approximately 55% of its funds to scientific education and research, 33% to humanitarian and social projects and 12% to culture and arts. It sponsors prizes through which funds are dispersed to various recipients. For example, the Liliane Bettencourt Prize for Life Sciences is an annual award to a top European biomedical researcher under the age of 45. Winners receive EU €250,000 to support their work in the field of life science. Recently the foundation helped fund the new Monet wing at the Musée Marmottan Monet. Conversely, in 2007 Bettencourt was jointly awarded a Black Planet Award, an award given for destroying the planet, along with Peter Brobeck-Letmarth for proliferating contaminated baby food, monopolizing water resources, and tolerating child labor.
Recent publicity.
Bettencourt has generally shunned media attention and grants few interviews. Since 2007 she has faced intense media scrutiny and publicity over her relationship with François-Marie Bagné, the estrangement with her daughter Françoise and her alleged funding of conservative French politicians, including former French President Nicolas Sarkozy. In August 2012 she sold her private island, Doros Island, to a Seychelles-registered conservation business linked to the Swiss Save-Our-Seas Foundation. The island was sold for $60 million. In late 2012 she bought a residence in Hottingen, Zurich for a reported 62 million francs. It is believed for tax-saving purposes due to the French wealth tax, ISF, and French exit tax.
L'affaire Bettencourt.
By most accounts Bettencourt met François-Marie Bagné, a French writer, artist and celebrity photographer, in 1987 when he was commissioned to photograph her for the French magazine Egoist. Over the ensuing years, Bagné and Bettencourt became friends and she became his chief benefactor, bestowing gifts upon him estimated to be worth as much as EU 1.3 billion. These gifts include, amongst other things, a life insurance policy worth EU 53 million in 2003, another life insurance policy worth EU 62 million in 2006, 11 works of art in 2001 valued at EU 20 million, including paintings by Picasso, Matisse, Mondrian, Delaunay and Leger, a photograph by surrealist Man Ray, and cash. The life insurance policies were allegedly signed over to Bagné after Bettencourt was recovering from 2 hospital stays in 2003 and 2006. In December 2007, just a month after the death of her father, Françoise Bettencourt Meyers lodged a criminal complaint against Bagné, accusing him of abus de faiblesse, or the exploitation of a physical or psychological weakness for personal gain, over Bettencourt. As a result of her complaint, the Brigade Financière, the financial investigative arm of the French National Police, opened an investigation and, after interviewing members of Bettencourt's staff, determined to present the case to a court in Nanterre for trial in September 2009. In December 2009, the court delayed ruling on the case until April 2010, later extended until July 2010, pending the results of a medical examination of Bettencourt's mental state. However, Bettencourt refused to submit to these examinations. In July 2010 the trial was adjourned again until autumn 2010, at the earliest, after details of tape recordings made by Bettencourt's butler, Pascal Bonifoy, became public. The tapes allegedly reveal that Bettencourt had made Bagné her sole heir, excluding the L'Oréal shares which make up the bulk of Bettencourt's estate and which have already been signed over to her daughter and 2 grandsons. On December 6, 2010 Bettencourt reconciled with her daughter, ending a series of lawsuits. It is reported that Bettencourt and Bagné had separated, and he was eventually written out of Bettencourt's will. The spat reignited over the following summer, however, when Bettencourt said her daughter needed to seek psychological help. A re-estrangement resulted. On June 8, 2011, it was reported daughter Meyers filed an application with the court to make Bettencourt a ward of the state for her health and being incapable of the management of her fortune. On October 17, 2011 a French judge ruled that she is to be placed under the guardianship of members of her family on concerns about Bettencourt's declining mental health. Françoise Bettencourt Meyers, along with 2 grandsons, will now control her wealth and property. Another grandson was named as her personal guardian. Liliane Bettencourt's lawyer said he would appeal, and told Le Monde newspaper that Mrs. Bettencourt was ready for nuclear war with her daughter. The court's ruling will remain in place pending the appeals process.
Madoff victim.
Bettencourt was reported to be one of the most high-profile victims of Bernard Madoff's Ponzi scheme, losing EU 22 million. She was the first investor in a fund managed by Access International Advisors, which was co-founded by René Thierry Magon de la Villiers. De la Villiers committed suicide on December 22, 2008 after it became known that his funds had invested a substantial amount of their capital with Madoff.
Political scandal.
In June 2010, during the Bettencourt affair, Bettencourt became embroiled in a high-level French political scandal after other details of the tape recordings made by her butler became public. The tapes allegedly picked up conversations between Bettencourt and her financial advisor, Patrice Demestre, which indicate that Bettencourt may have avoided paying taxes by keeping a substantial amount of cash in undeclared Swiss bank accounts. The tapes also allegedly captured a conversation between Bettencourt and Eric Woerth, who was soliciting a job for his wife managing Bettencourt's wealth, while he was acting as budget minister and running a high-profile campaign to catch wealthy tax evaders. Moreover, Bettencourt received an EU €30 million tax rebate while Woerth was budget minister. In July 2010, the scandal appeared to widen after Bettencourt's former accountant, Claire Thibault, alleged in an interview with the French investigative website Mediapart, that conservative French politicians were frequently given envelopes stuffed with cash at the Bettencourt's mansion in Neuilly-sur-Seine. She alleged that Woerth, while acting as treasurer for the Union for a Popular Movement, UMP, was given an envelope containing EU €150,000 in cash in March 2007 towards the presidential campaign of Nicolas Sarkozy. She also made, then retracted, a claim that Sarkozy was a frequent visitor to the Bettencourt's home while he was mayor of Neuilly-sur-Seine from 1983 to 2002 and received envelopes containing cash. A few days later, she declared she had been pressured by French police to retract her testimony about Nicolas Sarkozy's illegal cash. Mr. Sarkozy and Mr. Woerth both deny wrongdoing. Following these allegations, French police raided the home and office of Demestre, who heads Climon, the company owned by Bettencourt to manage her wealth. Political donations are limited to EU €7,500 for political parties and EU €4,600 for individuals. Contributions above EU €150 must be paid by check with the donor clearly identified.
Forbes rankings.
Forbes ranks Bettencourt at 9th in its list of the world's wealthiest persons with an estimated fortune of $30 billion. She is the richest woman in the world, and is also the richest person in France. In 2005, Forbes judged her to be the 39th most powerful woman in the world.